decided? So I don't know. They keep asking you, and I don't know. And then your mother will say, well, if you don't decide, I'm going to decide for you. And that's how life is. If we don't decide as spirit soul, the mind will decide. Now, there's a problem. It's a big problem. I don't want to depress you, kill your appetite. But this is a problem. Did you ever wonder why the mind is telling you to do something and you don't even want to do it? Like you've changed your life and you've decided, I've gone right my whole life, now I want to go left. So you're all, let's go left. And the mind's like, not me, count me out on this one. You know, for 1,000,000 lifetimes, you told me, go right. And now you're telling me to go left? I don't know how to go left. I only know how to go right. Those of us who are practicing Krishna consciousness full time, we had this experience. We made a decision intellectually that I want to give my life to Krishna consciousness on some level. I want to dedicate my life. And we thought, okay, but once you make that decision, that's it. That's what you do. So we make the decision and then we all have experience. The mind is not necessarily on board. The mind's like, no. I don't know about that. So through many lifetimes, we've conditioned the mind. So it's conditioned by lust, by anger, by greed. And that's why in so many cases, so many instances, even though we want to be a certain way or act a certain way, we spontaneously act the opposite. Ever have that experience? You're like, I hate myself when I do that. Like, why do I do that? I determined I don't want to be that kind of person, and then I do that. You ever done that? The answer is yes, in case you don't know the answer. As I've said before, every question I ask, the answer is yes. So just so you know. Isn't that frustrating?
Yes.
It's one of the most frustrating things, isn't it? I'm going to be nice to so-and-so. And then 3 days later, so-and-so does what so-and-so always does that drives you crazy. And you yell at so-and-so. And after you yell at so-and-so, you're like, I hate myself. That's because we've conditioned ourselves over lifetimes. And that conditioning, what we've conditioned ourselves, what it boils down to is that we are at the mercy of lust, anger, greed, envy, and so forth. We're not in control. So that's why Krishna said it takes practice. You can do it, but you're going upstream. You're working against what you've conditioned yourself to be. So if you ever wonder, why is it that when I decide to take the spiritual life, my mind is the other way? It's because that's all it knows. That's what you've taught it for millions of lifetimes. And it's really slow to learn to do it the other way. And so practice patience with yourself, tolerance with yourself. We're teaching the mind, we're practicing to go in another direction. And it takes practice, and you can do it. But please remember, you have the power. You are above the mind. You are the consciousness in the body. Without you, the mind just can't function. And so you can direct it. You can decide what you want to focus on. Just like we're looking at Gopal. Gopal, he's the most wonderful person that ever existed. That's what we're focusing on. That becomes our reality. We could choose to focus. Yeah, but look at it. He's got a spot on his socks. It's not perfect. And she's like, everybody's got spots on their socks. What's wrong with you? You know what I'm saying? But if you can choose to focus. We once did an exercise And everybody was asked to say like 5 things that they can't do. I can't get up at this time of the day. I could never achieve this, like that. You say like 5 things. Then the facilitator changed this up. He said, now I would like you to repeat those 5 things, but instead of can't, say I choose not to. And try that on and see how it feels. I choose not to get up early in the morning. I choose not to. It was like that. It totally felt like that's the reality. And so he was teaching us that many of the things that we feel we're controlled by, we're not. We just don't realize we have a choice to do it differently. And it's such a simple thing, and it's so fundamental. In 20 years ago, someone hurt me, and I just developed a lot of resentment for him. And so it just went on year after year after year. It just hurt. And then I read a book on forgiveness. Right in the beginning, it said forgiveness is a choice. And I said, it's not. It's been 18 years, and I feel the same way as I did 18 years ago. So my assumption was I had no control over it until I read that book and other books on forgiveness. And I realized, yeah, I'm choosing not to forgive him. Or really, if you want to make it dramatic, I'm choosing to be resentful. That's really what's happening. I'm choosing that Jew. How dare you treat me that way? I'm choosing. So when you start making those distinctions, then it gives you power. Like, for example, one interesting example. Sometimes people will say, well, I could be nice to this person if, and then they give some if that person, whatever, gives me $100 that he owes me, or whatever it is, apologizes, or I could do this if I could control myself if. So when you say if, you've made yourself powerless, because now you can only do it if the if happens, right? So unfortunately, we're used to living in a powerless way because we believe we're being controlled by so many circumstances and situations. And when you realize, no, I can make choices in these situations. So like something bad happens to you and you're distraught, but someone comes up and you say, no, it didn't happen to you, it happened for you. Like, everything's not good, but good can come out of it. Like, oh, yeah. And they start talking to you, well, what's the good? Your focus is shifting now. So you're taking a different perspective. Nothing changed. The event did not change. The event was in the past. But you've chosen to look at it a different way. But generally we think, no, the way I feel and the way I see it is just how it is. Isn't it? Like, we think our vision is reality. There's only one way to see it. And that becomes reality for us. We're seeing it one way, and that's reality. So I can forgive you when you apologize. Problem is, you may never apologize. So that means I can't forgive you, which means you, Champakalata, holds the power over my ability to forgive. Because until she says, I'm sorry. I can't forgive you. You're not supposed to say. So I'm powerless now. I cannot choose to, even though forgiveness is a choice, I cannot choose to forgive because I gave her the power to allow me to forgive. And she's not going to say, you blew it. You're not supposed to say, I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. And doesn't fit her profile. I'm not sorry. No, I can't forgive. So that the power is in other people's hands. So the mind is, think of the mind like a steering wheel in a car. And you, the soul, are the driver. Well, that looks better. We, the soul, the consciousness, are the driver. And as we said, the steering wheel sometimes bewilders us. It makes us think we are that. And then we think we have no control. You have any questions so far? Yes.
Is it a good mentality for one who pursues Krishna consciousness to be secure in themselves?
Is it what kind of mentality?
Secure.
What did you say before that? Is it the right mentality?
Right, is it good for someone in Krishna consciousness?
Yeah, as long as they're not arrogant.
And how do you change your mind into a mentality?
Secure? Secure means basically self-love and self-acceptance. Because then you don't need other people to validate you. You only need others' validation when you don't have your own. And a lot of what's going on in society today is really screwing us up because it's teaching us to do things to get validation, to teaching us to build our self-worth, not by loving ourselves, but doing something to get others to appreciate us. Really bad. So then if that's the way you think, you'll strive to do all kinds of things to please other people that you don't even want. Whatever that is, success or money or fame or whatever. And you know, a lot of people who are in the entertainment industry chose that industry because they wanted to be loved. They wanted fans to adore them. But that, you know, if you sing a song and they don't like it, they're not going to applaud. Right? You know, you can achieve self-esteem by being a good person and doing, you know, service and so forth. But I think it's more fundamental to be self-accepting because then you don't have to achieve it. And in our society today, self-acceptance is challenging. It's almost like if we don't check certain boxes, there's certain metrics by which we say, now I can love myself. I've got A, B, C, and D. At least that's the subtle message. You're not so subtle. And if we are affected by that message, then we'll always be like not good enough. Somebody said, we work hard at a job we don't like, buy things we don't need to impress people we don't like or don't like us. What? Is that a what?
A quote from Fight Club.
It may be Denzel Washington, but I'm not sure.
It sounds like a quote from Fight Club.
You can find out. I made a quote similar to that. My quote is, we work hard to buy things. We work hard to buy things we don't need that can never make us happy. That's what basically our life is. And also to impress people, but we are conditioned by our past actions. And a lot of what we do is not conscious, it's subconscious. It's conditioned. They give this example in India. It's such a nice example. Should I tell you the example?
Yes.
You want to hear? It's so funny. There's a drink called lassi. Lassi is you mix yogurt with water. And the lassis I'm aware of have fruit in it. Is that right? You mix spicy ones? Okay. And it's cold. And it tastes really good in the middle of the summer in Delhi, which is about 118 or something. Average. So you drink in India, they always drink milk hot. It's considered not digestible. Milk's a whole other issue. Because, you know, what we call milk today, I don't necessarily think it is milk, the milk of the Ayurveda, and traditional milk. But they drink it hot, they boil it, and they drink it hot. But if you drink milk very hot, you'll burn your tongue. So it's the same. It's the same meaning. You drink hot milk, you burn your tongue. So now when you drink a lassi, you blow on it to cool it off. And the lassi is ice cold. That's conditioning. Kind of like trauma, right? There's another example I give in India. When bulls are young, they tie them to a pole and they walk around. And then at a certain age, they remove the rope and it still walks around. It doesn't realize it can go further because that's all it knows. So we're all conditioned like that. There's so many events in our life condition us. And that's why we get frustrated, because sometimes we act in ways which are against who we want to be and what we're going to do. And so we just have to understand it's a habit, it's a conditioning, it's something we grew up with. And so the value of understanding your beyond the mind is now you can decide who you want to be and practice that, and practice acting against the conditioning. Otherwise, you become a product of that conditioning. And especially when that conditioning is not the way you want to be, it frustrates you. And you end up with that wonderful mantra, I hate myself when I do that. Like, well, why do you do it if you hate yourself when you do it? I don't know, I'm conditioned. I'm habituated. Right? So you can change that. That's the good news from tonight's talk. You can change it. Sometimes you need Krishna's help. But we work together. Yes.
So back to perceiving people with the reality that you're choosing.
Mm-hmm.
With some relationships, and we'll stay with the relationship example. This person's perfect. She's perfect, right? At some point in time, you're gonna realize that reality's, incorrect. So
you're very polite. Honey, I thought you were perfect, but I was incorrect.
Yeah.
And you see the imperfection, then what do you do? Yeah. So it's a choice of what you want to focus on. That's the point. Because I can just tell you what I did. I once learned something that was very helpful for me. And a lot of these things I learned over the years, when I look back at them, I think, that's so obvious. Why didn't I know that? Why didn't I think of it? But a lot of things which are so obvious, we don't notice them. And this one teacher said, if you focus on something negative long enough, you become discouraged, whatever that is. I don't suggest you make an experiment, but you probably have already done that. And so from that point in my life, I realized that because there's so much negativity in the world around us, people, but there's so much positivity, if I can choose to focus on the positive, I'm going to have a better life. And I'll be more productive, and I'll be better. I'll be better association for people. People will be better by being with me because I'm not negative. And people who are positive and enthusiastic are attractive. People like to be around them, especially if we're negative. Positive people are very attractive. So when he said that, I said, yeah, that's true, because anytime I allow myself to focus on something negative long enough, I just become disgusted. forget it, I don't want to do that, I don't want to see you, want nothing to do with this group, etc. So, that girl is not perfect. If you happen to be married to her, then what would be better to do? Focus on the good in her or the bad? Then you have a choice. There's a famous book on marriage, and says, whenever you get married, you get the whole package. The bad comes along with the good. You don't just get the perfection part that you saw. But that's just normal, but you don't have to focus on it. So you will find in your life, when things are bad and difficult and negative and blah, 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 if you can learn to stay positive, however that is, you're going to be much better. It's not that you don't see the negative, and it's not really, you don't do something about it if you have to. But being able to remain positive while in that environment is very important. Otherwise, you can't be objective. You can't really be functional. You'll get jaded by the negativity. And there's things we need to do that if we allow ourselves to focus too much on the negative, it can't be done. Too difficult. No one's going to help me. You'll not be able to go very far. You'll discourage yourself. When Srila Prabhupada came to America to start this movement, he had a heart attack, actually 2 heart attacks, and then he had a stroke. So right from the beginning of the movement, he would occasionally say, I don't know how long I'm going to live, but I've started this movement and you continue it. So he was doing a lot because he didn't know how long he had to live. And there were so many things that could have discouraged him and stopped him if he focused on them. And sometimes he mentioned those things, but he didn't focus on them. And one time a devotee came to him and said, there's this situation and I'm so discouraged by this situation, I just want to leave, like go to the Himalayas or something. This was in India. And he said, you don't have a right to be discouraged. He said, the only person in this movement who has a right to be discouraged is me. And then he explained why, that he single-handedly had to start this movement. And he came from a huge organization and not one person would help him. He had to do it alone. And not only did he not get help, some people were criticizing him and minimizing his success. So he said, I have a right to be discouraged. He said, but I'm not one to be discouraged. Because if you allow these things to discourage you, then what can you do? Because your energy comes from your enthusiasm. And when you become discouraged, it means you have no energy. You can't fight the battle. It's too difficult, right? So I've always found in my life that it's extremely important to maintain enthusiasm, no matter what happens. And to maintain inspiration, to be able to see things, no matter what's happening, be able to focus on things in a way that you can remain enthusiastic and inspired. Because there's plenty discouraging things going on. It's almost like a disease, a pandemic, and you have to be immune to it. Otherwise, that's the who cares? Everything is horrible. World's going to hell. Why bother? Why do anything? You know that story? This man is on the beach and all these fish have come on the shore and he's throwing the fish. There's like hundreds or thousands, so he can't throw them all in. And this little boy says, what are you doing? And he said, I'm throwing the fish back in the water. He said, there's so many fish. You can't throw them all back in the water. he said, you know, like, what difference does it make? And the man picks up a fish and throws it in the water. I said, well, it made a difference to this fish. So you can do so much good to others, but if you become discouraged, then you stop throwing the fish. You might think, oh, what can I do? Yeah, well, you do something for one fish. That's big for that fish. So I personally feel because I've been given so much, I have so much to give. So I have to keep myself encouraged, enthusiastic to give it because it's of value. We all have something valuable to give. And, you know, not everybody appreciates it, but there are people who do. And you need to be there for them when they show up. Does that make sense? Yes.
So, talking about how we are not the mind,
Mhm.
and we need to be able to use our intelligence to discriminate our mind and make our mind our best friend. When it comes to emotions, needs, desires,
Mhm.
we're also not our emotions, you
Mhm.
know. But where to distinguish when we witness the emotion and you know, control our minds, and when because we also, you know, are not supposed to sometimes suppress emotions or desires or needs. So when is the place to be like, no, that is not good, versus actually this is something I need to process, this is something I need to explore, this is something that I need to actually use.
Yeah. Well, you ever hear the processing of anger? Which would go something like this. I'm really angry with you. So that's how I'm saying I'm angry, because I'm controlling it, but I'm feeling it, but I'm controlling it, because I don't want to hurt you. So when people say how to control the emotion, you know, as we know, they just shoot up sometimes. You know, it's like, but what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do now that they're there? I mean, at what point can you control? Maybe as you progress in emotional control, you'll get better at it. Okay, I'll tell you a story. Would you like to hear a story?
Yes.
So I was in a country called Mauritius. If you go south from Europe, maybe a little bit towards the eastern side of Europe, and you go south, you come to this little island. And I was put in charge of a temple there. And I was, how should I describe it? It was kind of like running a temple with 12-year-olds. It's not that their education wasn't good, but it's kind of like emotionally. They develop, they emotionally mature like age 32. Just, you know, I don't know about now, but then it was like that. And I would expect certain things from them, but it was like expecting, you know, it took me a year to realize that I shouldn't expect so much. And my style as an American was not the way they do things. It's like, let's just get it done tomorrow. Like that. So I was getting really, really angry, like all the time. Because a lot of things were stupid. And there's a language difference. You know. I need 40 batteries, I need 4D batteries, so they came back with 40 batteries. Language difference, you know. We need to trim the hedges. They went in the garden and trimmed Tulsi. You know. Tulsi is a sacred plant, you know. You don't trim Tulsi. Like that. Yeah, it was just like I don't want to bore you with details. It's material for a cartoon now. It's like it's really bad. And I was in my office one day, and I was like getting angry like all the time because there was so many things going wrong. I'm like, why do you do this? You know, they have their own ways of doing things that are not the way we do that. To me, were inferior or worse than inferior. And I was getting so upset, and realize that they're all nice devotees, and I don't want to have this relationship. And because of my frustration with myself and how I was dealing with them, something very deep hit me, and I just felt like I don't want to act this way with them anymore. And it was like I made a determination, I'm not going to. And then the same things didn't bother me. So you can deal with emotions that way, where you alter the way you see things, you're more accepting, more understanding. And then you don't emotionally react in the same way. So that's one way of dealing with it. But especially if you're emotionally reacting in a way that's is not the way you want to be, then you have to work on, well, how am I seeing things that's causing me to react this way? Or what attachments do I have, or what? Or just think about it, like for example, we all have envy. Envy is one of the most horrible experiences that a human being can have. And if you think about what envy is, you don't envy people who are picking up trash. You envy the people who are doing what you want to do, but they're doing it better. And then if you think about it, you think you can understand or think, I should actually appreciate them. Because envy, Prabhupada said, envy means you actually appreciate them. Because you don't envy people you don't appreciate, who are doing things you wouldn't want to do. So you think about that and you think, wow, this person could be a great inspiration for me. This person I envy could be a great inspiration for me because I want to do what they do. And it's like, hey, can I take you out to dinner? Can you tell me about, I'd like to learn from you, right? But if I'm envious, I'd never do that, right? So if you think about it, then you could think, oh, everyone I'm envious, I should actually write them and say, I appreciate what you're doing. Thank you for doing that. You're such an inspiration, because they really are an inspiration. But the false ego doesn't want to get inspired. It wants to try to say they're lucky or whatever, born with the silver spoon. And I've done that with people I'm envious of. And I just said, I appreciate what you're doing so much. And like, we're so, like, thank you. That means so much to me. They're also insecure, believe it or not. So, but my point is, if you think about your reactions, there's a way you're thinking that could be altered so you wouldn't react that way. So now you see that person you're envious of and you're like, wow, it's so good to see you, right? Or like in our forgiveness course, we do appreciate the person who hurt you. It neutralizes that vengeance. Now you see them and you understand they were struggling. They did something because of their own struggles. And so you see it differently. And I'll give you an example. Would you like an example?
Yes.
This is such a cool example. Are you cool enough to listen to it?
Yes.
It's just so cool. So I didn't realize this in the beginning when I was teaching forgiveness, but I realized later what was happening. It was so simple. Everyone who had an issue that they wanted to deal with was coming in with a story. And I tell them, write the story down. This is what happened. This is what I expected that I didn't get. This is why I'm hurt, and so on. And so we go through different exercises which change the way you see the story. And the last exercise we did, one exercise is, well, tell the story from the person's perspective. Get their perspective, not just yours. So we do that and a few other things. And then at the end we say, well, imagine God or Jesus or Prabhupada or Buddha is going to tell the story according to how they saw it. So tell it from their perspective. It totally changes the story. Because they're like, well, this is your karma and you needed to learn something. And I sent this person, and you blew it because you should have tolerated it. Or you should have been compassionate, but you got angry. And so And so one of the exercises, you can take this course online, but one of the exercises is to write at the end what happened and how your story changed. Because all the forgiveness process did was change your story. And you came in with a story of resentment and you come out with a story of forgiveness. And nothing else changed. Only thing that changed was your perception. So my emotional response to this person is negative because I have resentment. So I need to change my story. I need to see it differently from their perspective, Christian's perspective. What do I need to learn and so forth? And then everyone who forgave had a different story. That's the only way they could forgive is there's nothing to forgive once your story has changed. So now when they see that person, it's like, there's no negative emotion because there's no issue because the story changed. Isn't that interesting? So many of the problems that we have are stories. And so we're reacting to the story. If you change the story, then different reaction, different emotional reaction. This is Gopal. Gopal is I don't know if you know this, but Gopal is the son of the king of Finland, right?
Yeah. Oh, Finland.
And in 10 years, he's going to inherit the throne. Oh, we all know him. Whoa. Oh, no, I got the story wrong. He's actually a serial killer. So your emotional response has just changed, right? From, oh my God, I'm in awe, to get this guy out of here and send him to the jail, right? It's all, and so we see how our emotions respond to the stories we tell ourselves, right? So if you want to change your emotional responses, you need to change your stories, right? So that's one thing to do in terms of emotion. And then the other one, as I was explaining, is that maybe we're working on stories or we're conditioned, so we respond emotionally in ways which we don't really want to, but at this point we can't fully control them. Then the only thing we can control is how we act and what we say, even though we don't feel like it. Like, I think it's really important to understand that I don't have to act the way I feel. Like, I feel like I don't want to, Gopal, don't want to suppress my emotions, so I'm going to just vent and punch you in the nose. And you'd think, I don't think so. I don't think that's the right way to do that. No, we don't want to suppress emotions. It's unhealthy, you know. So, so you feel that, but you can choose to act differently. For example, this is just a realization I got from being married, that sometimes my wife wants me to be a certain kind of person or act in a certain way, which is not naturally who I am. But I know that'll make her happy. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to go see my mother. So, you know, be like this and don't be like that. And I'm like, okay. So then I come in. I'm like, total extrovert and like, what's going on? You know, and do that for 3 days. And then I come home and I go back and there's a lot of people who are entertainers and speakers who are like that on stage, but when they go home, they're like very quiet. So it was an important realization for me, and I share this with a lot of people, and I think it's so important because it goes back to the original point. No, this is how I am. I just like, I'm a quiet person, I'm introverted and this and that. But in this situation, you need to be different. Or I'm very extroverted, just don't talk. Okay. When you go see my mother, don't talk. Okay, just listen. Because if you leave it up to me, I just talk like the whole time. So we can do that. Even though we don't feel it, and even if it's not our nature, but temporarily, we can control that. At least I want to plant that seed. We don't have time to like how to do that, but I want to plant that seed because if you know that, then you can try it. Say like, I felt this way, but I knew that wasn't the right way to act, so I did it. That's not easy. But I know you're a very sensitive person. I'm not. You come to me, I'm feeling like this, and my mind's like, gives a damn how you feel. Just do what I ask you to do. And that's not going to work. So I'm like, okay, I feel like, what's wrong? How can I help you? And inside, I'm like, I just want to get this done. You have to be this way, but it's not going to work. And so I'm not going to act that way because it'll hurt you. So I listen. And then also by doing that, I become more empathetic because I'm forced to listen. So you can try it. Not easy, but I think it's not easy, but necessary. A lot of things are not easy, but it's even harder when you don't do them. Yes.
So I'm curious. I like what you said about changing the emotional responses through changing our stories.
Yeah.
Like I'm dealing with some challenging situations in my life where it's like usually I feel like I'm pretty well composed, but there's like a few circumstances that are recurring that are like almost like hairline triggers for me where like it takes very little to give me a strong emotional response.
Right.
And like what happens in that moment is like I don't even know how to like it's not like it goes crazy or anything, but like my internal state is like flooded and it changes. Like it takes a long time for it to return to normal. Maybe like gone for the rest of the day or something like that. And I just need to sleep it off or something. But what I'm curious about is like I've tried like a bunch of different techniques, like I do a lot of different practices and stuff like this, but I haven't found a way that I know of to actually like in these moments, like it's frustrating to me when I just get triggered and I'm like, I want to just return like I already almost know how I want to act and everything, but I've been triggered and I just don't know how to get myself back to just feeling normal without just waiting a really long time. It's frustrating. Like, do you have any advice for how to basically I want to reduce my responsivity to these triggers?
Yeah. This is the
It
same.
almost feels like it's going the wrong direction. It almost feels like the more it happens, it gets worse, or I feel like more easily triggered.
It's the same thing.
Story? You think it's
It's the same. You're getting triggered by the same.
It's like the same genre of thing. Like it's like a category where like a lot of different things in this category. I'm getting more clear on what the categories are, and then like now like something even very subtle in that category will just like set me off, and then I don't even like once I'm ready to move on, my system is not like coming back to normal.
Yeah. Something in the past has happened. That's getting
That's definitely.
It's getting triggered. That has to be healed. Depends what it is and how you would heal it. But do you know what it is?
Yeah, like one of them specifically is like in relation to like jealousy.
Mm-hmm. So then, what I would suggest is go back in your memory and see if there's events in your life where that was an issue and why and where. And I think it'll start to make more sense that this happened and therefore this is why I feel this way now. That's number one. It helps just to know, like, oh, that's it. That's why I feel this way. Because I think the answer to your question is not how you come down after it, but how you prevent it in the first place.
And I think I'm pretty clear on that part of it, and I'm pretty clear on that, but I still don't know how to like how my system is.
Well, jealousy. What is jealousy?
What is jealousy?
Somebody has something you don't want them to have, that kind of thing.
That's envy. Like more like fear of loss. Like
so your jealousy is how would you define it?
Like it usually shows up with because I'm in a romantic relationship and it shows up mostly for me like when basically like I mean to not overshare, there's like I'm involved like in a community where there's like a lot of stuff happening that like I guess I have like a little bit of different boundaries and definitions for like what seems like reasonable behavior for my partner. So like
Yeah.
I'm very close to my partner, but like there's a lot of behaviors that even though she's very she's very faithful and like truthful with me, we just like have different boundaries as far as like what we feel is acceptable as far as ways of mingling with the other sex.
Yeah.
And like in community, there's a lot of things that are like they're actually quite like well beyond what I think are like, and we disagree on that, and we just get into these places where like if I try to do something about it, it comes off as like controlling, or it comes off as like, you know, that I'm like in some way not allowing her to live and explore her life the way that she wants to, and yet at the same time for me it's like some of the things that are happening are just so like beyond what I'm comfortable with that like I don't know how to come to terms with them, and it just keeps, we're just kind of like at this disagreement there, and it just keeps coming up, and it keeps getting triggered. And then when it does get triggered, even if I'm like, okay, I'm okay with like, I'm just gonna allow this to happen. It's like my system will. So even if I'm like, you know, I'm just gonna like let you have your way, let it happen, and just trust that like you're gonna draw the boundary wherever it's like, which even if your boundary is different than mine, that I'll trust that you won't take it too far.
It sounds,
my system just like won't.
Yeah. It sounds like it's so intrinsically against your values that you can't deal with.
Right.
And
that's probably.
And I don't know if you'd want to change that.
Well, I don't really want to change that, but like there's enough of like other reasons why this individual is like super special and valuable to me that like I'm basically trying to like accept this, and I'm just like really I don't know how. You know?
Yeah. I don't know if it would be good for you to accept it, honestly, because it.
Like, but what if like you really feel strongly that like their values and their heart and everything is like their intentions are like actually very like high and pure, and it's just like a difference of like, you know, like what is normal to them versus what is normal to you.
Yeah.
Like some people are more like conservative, some people are more liberal and stuff like that. And to me, it's not even so much about like where it may just be about my past conditioning. You know, I don't even know where I'm really at. But, like, part of me feels like I just don't. And so what I would love to do is at least in the interim be able to be like, you know, when this is happening, as I'm figuring out what to do about it, I get set off in these ways where I'm just like now like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah. Sounds like well, two things I think, but we can't get into it much longer here. But two things I think. As I said, it could be that it's such an important value for you that even if you try to accept, it's like impossible. You can't. It's so ingrained within you. The other possible way of dealing with it is that in a relationship, if something is going to disrupt the relationship, or if I can do something that will make my partner happy, then I can make that sacrifice, even if it's important to me.
That's where I'm at. So that's what I'm going for.
Yeah. But you may not try it, but you may not be able to, because it might be so. It's so part of who you are. Then the next stage is you have to discuss it, which I'm sure you have, and but maybe more discussion. I mean, when maybe you realize it's like I can't be any other way. It's just I tried, but I can't. And she's going to have to like hopefully adapt to that in some way. If you can't do anything, like you just tried, this is who you are, and she should know that. And there's going to be this conflict if she doesn't change her behavior. And you don't want it to be there, but it's going to be there. That's what it means to people.
I don't feel fixed to like my paradigms or unwilling to try to stretch or open in certain ways. I just feel like where I'm at is even like I'm making the attempts, but like I'm really trying to figure out, okay, like if the world doesn't change, how can I change inside so that I can accept the world as it is, rather than needing the world to change to accommodate me.
You have to detach from that value.
So you're saying
you already tried to be more accepting, so that's not working. So, and trust her more. Sounds like there's maybe some trust. You trusted her more. isn't it?
Maybe, I think like for me, there's trust, but like it's more about like risk aversion or something like that. More about like judgment. Like even like if I don't trust that she's intending to do wrong, I feel like the difference is for me, I see like what's like how does this play out in a lot. Like it just doesn't seem like we're engaging in high risk behavior. It just doesn't seem like over lots of repetitions and over, like just doesn't seem like it's wise, you know. And like it's hard for me to like feel good about it happening because I would choose to like make choices that are a little bit less risky.
Yeah, yeah.
So it feels like she doesn't intend to do anything wrong, but I feel like she maybe doesn't understand like what she like the longer game, like what is happening, you know.
Yeah, sounds like it.
Yeah, but I do think like certainly more trust would help, but like there's multiple elements there.
It's a long discussion. There is. You think about it more. Some detachment on your part, you try it, but maybe you can't. Maybe it's so who you are. It's such a strong value, you can't detach and you can't accept. It's possible. I have one more. Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Going back to the topic different on top of the lamentation, often we hear intuition within tell us, don't do that,
Mm-hmm.
and then we
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, dang it, I should have listened. That was really dumb. And I often find the mind, it's like in that moment right before it was like, oh yeah, go for it, go for it, go for it. And do it. It's like, wow, this sucks. And then there's this lamentation effect, just like sitting in a swamp, you know, it's like, oh.
Mm-hmm.
And so how, in the moment of sitting in the fog, in the swamp of that lamentation, what do you prescribe is like realign yourself out of that identification with the one who.
Well, you are not a failure. You just failed. And failure is normal. I think one of the, not that I think, I know, one of the realities we have to face when we begin spiritual life is that we're going to fail. Because what we're trying to do is difficult, and it's so much different than everything we've done in this life and other lives. And if we don't have a realistic view of what the obstacles are and how much weight we have to lift up, and well, it looks easy, and then you go and you can't even get it off the ground. It's a bit like that. And so I think a more realistic view is important. And part of that view is from time to time I am going to fail. It's normal. So then accepting that you're not a failure because you failed and it's normal, then you retrace your steps and say, like, what happened? How could I avoid this next time? What mistake did I make? You know, I stepped here and, oh, that's where the hole is. I didn't see it. I know next time on this path I walk around the hole. You can't go forward if you allow these things to discourage you. Then again, you lose energy. Like, what's the point? What's the use? I keep going. You will fail. You have to fail. It's impossible just to come as a conditioned soul and go straight up the spiritual path without falling and climbing and falling and climbing. It's just, you know, when you get higher, it's just going to be straight up. But until then, it's you're dealing with your conditioning. Your intention and your conditioning are different. So your intention is go this way. Your conditioning is like go that way. So there's a little bit of that. So one of the things that's taught in our scripture is that accidental fall is much different than premeditated fall. So accidental fall is not seen as something horrible. When it's premeditated, it's different. Wasn't your intention was to go here, but you got sidetracked. Something happened, people took you over there, you ended up, in the club and the bar. Oh, well, you were just going to buy some milk for the breakfast tomorrow. That happens. So it's accidental. So the Shastra, the scriptures, it looks at it differently. Like that's to be expected. The scripture looks at, well, what's your intention? Okay, this happened, you fell, you slipped, but what's your intention? So never again, that was stupid. I shouldn't have gone with them. I know my own weakness, never again. Now, if that happens like 3 times a week, then you can sit in a swamp and we'll all come and whip you. But if it's not consistent, then it's what's most important is what your vision is, like where you're trying to go. So you keep that you fall in the swamp, but you keep that vision. So falling is not going to obscure either that vision or the intensity of your desire to achieve it. Then you're okay. But when you fall in the swamp, you lose sight of your goal and you lost the energy. That is my failure. So that lamentation is not helping you unless that lamentation is inspiring you to do that.
As you walked back, have you found that voice have you found it easier to align
with the intuition? Oh yeah, totally, because it's Krishna. It's just that sometimes we don't know, we don't believe it. It becomes easier to hear and understand that it's Krishna. When it's Krishna, it's easier to hear. Which is most times, if not 100%, 99.9. As you get a little more experience in Krishna consciousness, it'll pretty much be 100%. At the beginning, maybe you have to ask somebody, this is how I feel, what do you think? I think this is right. Just my experience in life, if it's a consistent feeling and it's very strong, generally that's right. If that, whatever you're feeling is going to bring you closer to Krishna, how could it be wrong?
My immediate life state is I find sometimes kind of fall into this like mental speculative robot, yes, no, right, wrong, left, right.
Yeah.
In books, it's like go this way or go that way. Find more people over here. Find more people over here. It's like, I'm like trying to listen to the intuition, but then the mind gets involved, and it's like, it gets.
Well, it's not meant to be black and white. It's meant to be taken in by the individual and processed according to what works for you. I mean, there obviously some black and whiteness, but you have to process it in a way that, it's really about what is going to help you and help other people. If you just ask those questions when you're confused, what would be the best thing for me? What would be the best thing for other people? You'll find easier time to make a decision. I think we have to stop, right? If we don't stop now, never. Yeah, I'll come back. We'll stop at 7, man.
But,
One more
no
question.
time in the spiritual world, but would you like to leave one last?
One more question.
Would you realize that a thing that you're doing, which you think is good for you, may have been a result of conditioning, and may have restricted you from doing a better in your life?
Because conditioning happens, it's subconscious. It's just samskara. You don't even think, it's just how you act. But then if it's conflicting with who you want to be and how you want to act, then you understand, oh, this is my conditioning dictating rather than my intention. And I have to let my intention override that. Which means I have to be focused on it, I have to be praying about it, I have to be desiring it, I have to remind myself, I have to be even speaking it, this is what I want. One One time something interesting happened to me. I was walking at the beach in Australia and I was thinking about something that I don't want, which is the mind. And I said out loud, I don't want that. And then I said what I do want. And so I was reaffirming to the mind, to everything, and myself, maybe mostly, and to Krishna, this is what I want, this is what I don't want. And as soon as I did that, it just solved the problem. So you know what you don't want. You know what you want, and you can affirm that. And you can defirm it, an affirmation. You can affirm it. I don't want this. And the mind is saying, yes, you do. And you say, no, I don't want that. You don't have to tell me that I don't want it. This is what I want. And when anything you speak gains power. So it sounds simple, but it's very powerful to speak what it is you want and speak what you don't.
Going back to that example which you gave, I really like that example, the bull example. The bull is tied to a pole and he goes the circle, and at the end of the day, he gets his food and water and stays happy. But it doesn't know that it can go straight as well.
Yeah.
What if I'm a bull, I'm doing things over and over again, I'm conditioned, I'm very happy, and I don't know what to do next? Or maybe I can just go straight instead of going in circles. How do I realize?
You need to have a goal. But if you don't have a goal, you will go in circles. And we will go into circles that everybody goes in, because that's what that's how society directs us. But to have spiritual goals, you have to break free from that conditioning. Material conditioning is all ego, false ego. Put myself in the center, get honored, get ahead, prestige of my job, put a lot of money in the bank, nice car, nice house, nice labels on my clothes, all of that. It's just, if we don't try to counteract that, most people will just go for it. Even the ones who don't want to go for it end up going. So it takes a focus to break through that. And first it takes intelligence to see that that's not going to work. I just read something. I don't know who wrote this. It was brilliant. He was saying that desire for money, success, fame, and all that, he said it's covert depression. So we're actually depressed. We don't know it, and that's why we're striving for it. So that's very interesting. Because those things are not going to make you happy. You're so unhappy. That's the only way you know how to be happy. So actually it's a form of depression when it's obsessed with it. So all this kind of thinking will help us and focus on more spiritual goals. And then there's an impetus to break that conditioning, because you have to break it to achieve those goals. Anyway, we could talk more. Let's chant. This will break the conditioning right out of the box. Is those silver flutes contain any key, or there?
Yes.
Okay. See how it goes. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Goranga. Haribo. Bolo. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, 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 Hare Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Bolo. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, oh, Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Oh. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, oh, Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, oh, Rama Rama. Oh. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Govinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Oh! Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Jai Prabhupada. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. One more time. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gopamam. One more time, everyone together. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, I'm not the body, I'm not the mind. But I use it all the time. Yeah. I'm not the body, I'm not the mind. But I use it all the time. My mind never controls me anymore after this class. I'm never gonna let it drive me crazy, crazy. I'm not the body, I'm not the mind. I'm not the body, not the mind. Won't drive me crazy this time. Because I heard Mahatma Prabhu's lecture and it blew my mind. Hare. Mahaprasade Govinda.
Mahatma Prabhu ki
Srila Prabhupada ki
jai. If you would love Mahatma Prabhu to come back to Krishna House all the time, every day, all the time, we can build you a house here. Say Haribol! There's no words except thank you to Mahatma Prabhu and thank you to all of you so much for coming. You can also check out mahatmadas.com for more information on everything, all the wonderful things that he does. And we have, where's Carmen? Carmen, is she here? Oh, Carmen and team made a wonderful taco feast for all of us. So let's say clap for her.